Look, detectives combing through the hood looking for a corpse. Draco hitting. I don't think your body can endure the force. I whipped the fish up with a fucking hanger or a fork. Told that bitch, go ahead, sniff what you want. There's plenty more to snort. I had an outstanding warrant for a short. Turned myself in, rocking Louis and all my jewelry. I wore the court.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have reoccurring guest, Mr. Ryan Rogers from the Choices Not Chances podcast. Ryan, appreciate you taking the time, brother. How we doing?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm doing good. I've been traveling a lot and caught a day or two here where we can make something happen. So excited to be on.
Absolutely. So me and you have been talking offline a little bit, and obviously something big that's going on right now, or just recently went by, was the Putin interview for Tucker Carlson to just, I mean, as we know, his trajectory ever since he got out of the media, big business or targeted media, he's been doing his own thing, and he's been doing more of the independent journalism, trying to do the like freelance. What would you even call it? Would you call it the just independent?
I would call it independent journalism,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah.
I mean, are you a fan?
Journalism.
Are you a fan?
I am, and I'll tell you why. At one time, there were 3 or 4 stations, and that's where you got your news, right? And the problem with that is if they're all owned by the same company or similar companies, and they want to have a monopoly on public information, well, then now you see what that looks like, because that's been exposed as technology continues to advance. Companies get a little bit bigger. Then you get live stream capabilities through YouTube and Spotify and these different apps. Well, now anybody can make a movie. And guess what? They don't have to go through your editor. They don't have to ask you what your opinion is. They don't have to ask you what your political affiliation is. They say what they want to say and they put it out. And people listen or people don't. I like that because at least you're getting multiple different avenues and multiple different, it's like getting different perspectives on the same mission. It always builds a clear path. It used to be like you watch the mainstream media and it's like you got the one way over here on the right, Fox, then you got CNN way over here on the left. And the fact is, they're both going to drop these little nuggets, right, of truth. So it's got to stay believable. But really, they're the far extremes of something that's probably way closer to the middle of what they're both talking about, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's how I kind of like look at anything. And just a little tangent on that, you see the power of independent journalism.
Huge.
When you see people like Theo Vaughn getting RFK on and having an awesome conversation, but then you see the heat from the pressure from the mainstream media on him afterwards, or you see Joe Rogan, quadrupling the numbers of your average legacy media channel on either side. Like, what has happened is notable people have come up with enough experts and enough sound knowledge and sound education for people to digest in an easy way. And people have built a relationship with these hosts, the Rogans and the different hosts, the Petersons. And now they say, I believe this more than I ever believed this over here. And so that's where they're going to get their information. And so I'm a fan of it. But just like anything else, if you don't like what you see, you can click right off of that channel.
Absolutely.
If you like what you see and it resonates with you and your policies align, then you can get more of that. And so that's the beauty of where direct stream and podcast journalism is going. I love it.
For sure. Does that make you think like how easy it was just to control the narrative before, like, let's say, Freedom of Information Act, or before really even the independent journalism or the podcast started going? Because that's all I've been thinking about. Like,
oh yeah,
especially like that's during the time that me and you joined the military, and I don't know, it just gets you thinking about like big picture stuff. But
how you can monopolize information and turn it into action.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's look at this first. So what mindset is Tucker Carlson in right now before going over to, interject with Putin? He's what really happened? So really, do you think he got a taste of seeing how controlled media is, and he didn't like it, and he wanted to do his own thing? Or did you think he just bumped heads with the wrong person? What's your perspective on that?
Man, I don't watch any more of it than I have to, which I do watch a little bit on both sides, and then I get some other media from other places. And then a lot of, a lot of just, independent research of my own.
Yep.
But I don't know enough, man, to speak intelligently on what Tucker Carlson's situation is. Like, I guess first of all, I guess I don't care enough what his personal. I mean, and I
No,
don't
I hear
mean
you. I
that
hear you.
in a slight. I don't think about Tucker. I don't think about what his mindset is or what he must have been thinking. I just look at the reporting and research that he does, and I say, oh, that looks pretty honest, or oh, that looks like shit.
Yep.
I think that since he started doing his own thing, it seems like he's doing things that other people, maybe at the establishment level, were not letting him or not going to let him, in his
Definitely.
mind, do. And that's probably a big one, talking to Putin, who's at war and who we are essentially funding the other side of.
Yep.
And that's risky, right? So
For
if there's
sure.
anything I could say about his situation, be huge balls that he has.
Definitely.
Um, um, but like outside of that, I think that Tucker probably wants answers. He's an
Yeah.
independent journalist who used to be an establishment journalist who probably, other people were doing a lot of it for him, is my guess. Um, and he has a chance to do what he wants to do on his terms. And that could be all bullshit. He could have been contacted by Putin. I have no
Yeah.
clue. Right.
Definitely.
So
Thought about that too.
that's the best I could say on that. I'm glad he did it. I'm glad we got an insight, or that we have,
Agreed.
or are able to get one.
Agreed.
But I
Because
have
really,
no
all
idea.
we've had, dude, all we have is what we've been told so far from our media. Correct? I mean, we really haven't heard. I mean, yeah, we've heard Zelensky.
You can watch the Russian media, but that's a lot controlled. But I mean, the whole war's on YouTube, on GoPro,
That's very
so you
true.
can see that it's real. You can see that they're actually fighting. It's just to peel back the layers to find out why. Um, I'm sure we'll get into it, but if the like if the argument is hundreds of years ago our borders were here, and we want that back, it's like every country, not every, but there's many countries that could peel back a couple hundred layers of border lines and have more land or less land. Like, that just seems like a weird
Yeah, I hear you.
construct to build the argument on. So I don't think it's necessarily that. I mean, we talked offline on some of the other
Yep.
things, but yeah, weird.
So okay, so let's before we dive into that, what is to me? I just recently interviewed again. I have a reoccurring guest. His name's Stephen Prinslow, and he's from South America, and he has been doing frontline work with Ukraine infantrymen. Been on the front lines, and he's given me just unbiased perspective of what he's been dealing with, and how they've been handling the Russian forces. And as of lately, apparently, and to me, it's been pretty much a stalemate. Um, and I guess according to him, Russia's been really pushing lately,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they've been making some ground on Ukraine. So that's, to me, that is probably the most unbiased, honest opinion I've gotten so far on this. So if Russia's pushing right now and gaining ground, obviously Putin's going to want to try to control the narrative. So it would make sense for him to, as you said, maybe he did reach out to Tucker, and maybe he is trying to just control media to somewhat, because something he said during his interview was he articulated how controlled the media is by America. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that could just be, as you said, this could be a huge psyop. This could just be him, messing with the narrative and trying to get his piece out there so he can control thoughts and minds, and run the chessboard a little bit. But yeah, this is just us giving opinions and going on intuition and trying to.
I mean, like, take it back and peel it back until like 2014 time frame, when he sent operatives from Russia here.
Yep.
And they were called the IRA, the Internet Research Agency. And it was a number of agents, or call them what you want to call them, Russian citizens connected to the Kremlin. They come over here, and their sole mission while over here, and fully funded by home, was to learn every single in and out, one and zero in the coding, and how things worked with all of our main platforms, all of our social media capabilities. So then you run that up, and they find out, right? And then what do? They go home, disseminate the information. They board up a little think tank of their own, just like we do, and they start pitching these bot farms. And then what are they able to do? They're actually able to use artificial intelligence and bot farms to um, to set up left rallies across the street from right rallies, none of which were being organized by human beings. And if they were, it was their human beings, right? And then Americans are stupid enough to see something on Facebook, a little twitch that gets their political juices flowing, and then they jump on it, and then the next thing you know, with a little funding, a little fuel, boom, this blows into a big thing, right? And that is the ultimate play. That's the bait and switch that they did to us, because they know our platforms and they know our things. So I'm always very cautious with Vladimir Putin, just like we talked about offline. When I was in school, I researched him a lot, and I mean, it's straight KGB thug, but the guy's not stupid. He rose to the top of the ranks because he was smart and he was ruthless. This election right here could have been a play that started in 14, and like, to think that he doesn't want airwave time and to live in American headspace for free. So like, I guess the root of that was, I don't even know who organized this interview. And so, and I don't care, honestly. I think it doesn't really matter. I think if Putin is going to take an interview with somebody like Tucker, he has something he wants to get across to, or he wants to come off a certain way to the international world. And from things I've looked at afterwards, things that came out of Putin's mouth was he didn't expect the patience from Tucker. He thought that he was extremely patient, and he wasn't prepared for that. And again, I say that that's probably good. He is still the president of a nation, and you should still show respect and let him talk to an extent. I think he rambled a lot in the beginning, talking about the histories of the motherland and different borders.
In the beginning of the interview, I think he expected more pointed questions, because obviously Russia's at the butt of everything right now. Russia's invading Ukraine, and it would be an easy platform for someone to just start cranking at him. And he didn't get that from Tucker.
Nope.
So he kind of just weebled and wobbled about the history of Russia and how Ukraine was connected to Russia. I think he went all the way back to the 1300s.
I just don't know that he expected to have that much latitude to talk about it. So it felt to me like he wanted to get a bunch of points across, but it also felt to me like he didn't prepare to speak precisely about those events, because he didn't think that Tucker wouldn't be interrupting him constantly with sharp and pointed questions. And so now he's got all this latitude, and it's like, and I'll keep talking because, and then the 840, and it's like, I just think he thought that he was going to be instantly shut down, and then he wasn't. And so, like, a little bit of wicked genius there on Tucker's part, and good for the patients, because if we all don't enter conversation with the thought that we can learn something, then there's no point to enter conversation. So that's true for Tucker as it is for me and you sitting here. If you enter a conversation with a person and there's nothing you can get out of it, there's no point in having that conversation. If you enter a conversation with any person, I would urge you to be patient and see if there's even one thing you could pick out. Hopefully there's 100 things you could learn. But if you don't go into it with like if you're always listening to respond instead of listening to learn or understand, then a lot of things can go by the wayside, right? So
I love that.
That's what I was saying.
Well said. So the first thing I really noticed that was a statement from him after he kind of just, got on the pedestal and started talking history was he instantly controlled the United States is trying to attack Russia through the UN.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's unpack that a little bit. The UN has been being expanded, and that was one of the things that was one of his big things about the UN over there. He doesn't want it expanding. He doesn't want Ukraine to be part of the UN. And I believe the UN offered Ukraine, what do they call it? It wasn't exactly like membership. It was, oh, it was a membership action plan for Ukraine. So that would be what? I mean,
Course correction on how they're going to be a member in the future.
yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly. Verbiage. Um, yeah, I mean, the way he sees it, we're offering Ukraine weapons, we're training their soldiers, we're giving them HIMARS, we're giving various anti-aircraft things. So, I mean, how else is there to look at it? I mean,
for him and his shoes, I'm sure it feels very much like that. I mean, if you as a president years and years ago say, here's my red line, it includes these countries, and then everybody says, okay. And then one by one, those countries start crossing the red line and becoming NATO allies. And then you feel like you're suffocating because it's like now you don't have. I think when maybe a lot what maybe goes through his brain is that before he had these countries that were almost like buffer states, right? But it's like this is 2024, dog. There ain't buffer states
yep,
anymore. You're
yep,
not afforded buffer states anymore. And I think that's our view. But yeah, from his view, it looks like red line after red line was crossed and his back's against the wall. And now you have Poland right
slowly
there. And now
closing
you
in.
have
Yeah,
United States funding this other army that's killing your people. And I mean, that's a contentious situation to be in for
absolutely.
any leader, So like that's the thing is like part of me is like, yeah, we did cross a lot of red lines. Thing is for him is he thinks that all of that is attacking him. And like my hope would be that the larger the UN gets, even if it gets continues to grow, that would hopefully make it safer for everybody. Being that we're owing each other and we're holding each other
Yep,
accountable within allied forces. However, like again, if you're him, I'm sure it doesn't feel
yeah,
that way,
for
right?
sure.
Um, so it's perspective. Like if you're him, yeah, it looks like the world's closing in around you. Your buffer states are gone, and people who you were fighting by yourself now have the backing of the strongest military known to the
Yep,
planet ever, and that sucks, right? Oh, and you
absolutely.
feel a little exposed. Probably you feel a little exposed in your logistics and movement of army and lack of logistics and lack of battlefield acumen, right?
For
So
sure.
you got all that going for you. Um, then you're putting this, on this interview where you want to get some stuff out and maybe you get a little extra time than you thought
Yep.
you would and you kind of fumble it, but
hmm
at least the
So,
beginning.
so to me, honestly, this whole time looking at this situation with Ukraine, um, I've been hesitant. I've been not appalled. That's the wrong word. It just seems like, and keep in mind, I'm not trying to say I'm Republican. I'm not trying to say I'm Democrat. I'm just saying what has been happening with the administration that's in office right now. It seems like they've been poking the shit out of Putin with what they're doing. And is that a bold course? I mean, we articulated a little bit offline. What kind of headspace is Putin in right now? He's in his later years, possibly having health issues. He's stated multiple times that he's the type of man that wants to create a Russia, a strong Russia, a Russia of old, how it used to be. How did you put it? I forget how you had
Yeah, I think he
phrased
just really wants to, restore the motherland. I think that he wants to restore the Soviet Union to the best of his ability as far as landmass goes. And I think that he knows that he's in his later years. Um, I think that a lot of that stuff plays on him to be somebody who preached that over and over and over that that's what he was going to do. And now you have, the world kind of closing in around you. So, um, yeah, I don't.
to me, I would wonder why why you wouldn't politic more with that, and why you would push that. I mean, granted, I don't know everything. I'm sure maybe they know something that we don't know, but
And
I don't
that's the
know. It
other
looks
thing we got to
risky.
understand as
Mm,
Americans is like sometimes the other side's right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like that can be true. And sometimes we can be wrong. And
Yep.
that can be true, right? We can be wrong about WMDs being somewhere
Yep.
that we went and invaded. We can be
I
wrong
love that
about
you just
things.
said that.
I just want people to know like we can be wrong. And
Hmm.
like this is, and that's not me throwing shade, man. That's me
No.
saying that the American intelligence community and the American military operate on incomplete information always. And the stakes are lives, and you have
Absolutely.
incomplete information, but you
Yep.
gotta weigh out, use that risk
Both
matrix
sides.
to weigh
Yep.
out like, yeah, this could be wrong, and it'll be really bad if it is, but if it's right and we don't do anything about it. So it's really like you're picking, the
The lesser
lesser
of
of a
most evil.
many
Yeah.
evils,
Yeah.
right? You're looking at a
Yep.
bunch of evils and you got to pick one of them, right? And that's not always how it is, but that's sometimes how it is. And so sometimes we get it wrong. And personally, I think that a lot of times that we get it wrong is because our own policy makers and decision makers at the congressional level are too busy politicking for whatever they're politicking for on whatever side they're
Yeah.
on,
Who knows?
and not busy enough kind of looking out for America as a whole, you know what I mean?
Definitely. For
And
sure.
so, you know that's not always the case, but sometimes that's the case. And sometimes
Honestly, I don't
recently I
think the
think
layman
that's been
person really acknowledges that enough, man. I
yeah.
don't think the layman person acknowledges that, listen, maybe we could be wrong about a couple of things. Maybe we
I,
don't know.
I would say this though, as far as the administration goes, and I said this on a podcast not long ago, or on I was a guest on, and like I don't like the inaction with Yemen, and I don't like the inaction, with the Houthis and all
Yep.
these different things. I don't like the inaction there. Don't think that was, is being handled well. But as far as Russia, like I told you, I wrote my paper, The Appeasement
Yep.
of Putin, right? Like at some point, if you don't slap a bully in the face and say, no more, like I'm going to stand right here and I'm going to watch you and it's no more from here. If
Agreed.
you don't do that, then you know what a bully does. A bully's
Yeah.
going to go, and he's going to go, and he's going to go, and he's going to
Yep.
probe, and he's going to say, "Oh, that's your line. I'm going to go a little bit further than that line. That's your line." And so as far as that's concerned, I like being strong to Putin. I don't think you destroy relationships. You don't want to burn that political bridge. You don't want to put somebody all the way off on the edge where they can't even negotiate anything with you ever in the future. That's not what I would recommend. I'd recommend, heavy diplomacy and heavy off ramp.
Agreed.
But as many people as that man's assassinated and poisoned that we know of in the last 15
Facts.
years that we have
Facts.
facts on, there was some appeasement going around, and there were several countries, in my opinion, that like, and I'm no world leader, so I'm just this little guy, but for me, I felt like if I was a world leader, that like what do? You can shame them, you can yell at them, you could be mad, but is that a reason for a war? No.
No.
But like this is not somebody who was, in my opinion, a overly rational actor lately.
Exactly.
And so if you look at, and that changes the whole dynamic of how I see things, either somebody's
It
rational
should.
or they're not going to be rational.
Yep.
And that's me speaking. I represent nothing more than just this is my garage opinion, or studio opinion on the question, or on
you know,
Putin.
honestly, the scariest thing that I got from this whole thing was something that Putin said. He said he loves Biden. He loves the Biden administration, and he would rather him over Trump.
Why do you
And
think that is?
of course, I already know why it is,
The
man.
same
Come on.
reason that's the same reason that Osama bin Laden wrote emails to his generals that you can find public information. Anybody can
Hmm.
look this up. That said, "Do not attack number two," when he was the vice. And his generals responded, "Why don't we attack number two?" And this goes on and on. But he says, because the number two becomes the number one, and that man is not ready to stand that post. And so this has been seen by people across the globe for some time. And so what's the scary thought about it is that somebody that knows that somebody's, that he's just weak? Or was that a person that knew that it was leveraged? And so, like, we don't know. Right. We and may never know. But But that's not the only world leader that said he'd rather have Joe Biden with weak policies be in office, right?
Facts.
So it's interesting to me though, because prior to, that interview and that comment, I was under the impression that, at least from the mainstream media, that he would prefer Donald Trump, and him and Donald Trump had this great relationship and they liked each other. And it's like, I knew that wasn't true, but now you have him saying, no, I love Biden to win. This has been great. You know, um, that's interesting to me because
Mm.
I did. Yeah, that was,
Because to him, he can do whatever he wants.
I guess it's not shocking. I guess it's almost like borderline expected. Like, yeah, if I was you, I would probably, urge for that as well.
Exactly.
Um, what was more interesting was the sly look that he had on his face when
I
he
know.
said it.
I know. I know.
It was
No.
straight a fuck you.
Yeah.
No, I love your weak ass
Big time.
administration.
Keep it
Like,
coming.
yeah, and I say that in saying I still like what the strength that this administration has shown, at least in that capacity towards that issue. So, my big issue, I think, I don't even mind helping. I don't mind, the training and all of that. But my big issue would just be that I want to know where United States tax dollars are going and what they're going to, and I want to make sure that they're not going to uh, a corrupt politician that's then turning that into something that's fighting, American national treasure. So it seems like, and I'm not over there. I'm not part of it. And you can only hear the different biased
Yeah.
opinions, but it's like, it used to be a pretty corrupt place, and now they're in the middle of war, and they're torn out, and there's different leadership coming in and out, and it's like that's a target rich environment for corruption. So I
For
would
sure.
just want to ensure that our own weapons aren't used against us and our own money's not used against us in any
Exactly.
way.
Well said.
And that's about the stake I have in it now.
So Putin also, which I saw was kind of interesting, and I don't really know much. You might know more about this than me. I'm sure you do. He distanced himself from Lenin, and he kind of made it seem that Lenin pushed for Ukraine to be, independent and outside of the USSR. And he also made it seem like Ukraine was fully Nazified, was completely controlled by the Nazi Party. And for the, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've seen that before, but I'm just surprised the boldness for him to say that in an interview like this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what does that what
Now,
does that
I've,
tell
I've,
you?
I've very little G2 to speak intelligently about the Lenin side of things and what he wanted. I'd really have to get into it to, even opine. But
Okay.
um, the Nazi Ukraine thing, I've heard that I've heard
Same,
that from several different places
same.
that it was extremely, like swastika up
Yep,
all
yep.
the way, all the way to the extreme in several areas. I've heard that again, like we also heard that the ghost of Kiev was gunning down MiGs. Like we also heard a lot of things, and
I
so
forgot about that.
like, and I would say this to a lot of people is like, be very cautious about the things not only that you hear but that you see with
Yeah.
AI and the things that they can generate these
Yep.
days. I would believe very little of any of that because the number one campaign in any of these wars that's going on right now or that will go on in the future is an information campaign. And if you can win the information campaign, you have a pretty good leg up.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have multiple countries running multiple information um,
Disinformation, information.
propaganda
Yeah. Yep.
campaigns, absolutely. And then we're all here as Americans like, well, that Ukraine's mainly Nazis and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, yeah, like I heard that. Have you
Mhm.
been there?
Yeah.
Like I
Exactly.
have talked to some people that have been there, and there's some of that activity like that I have been reported to that like it's actually real. Do I think it's the entire country of Ukraine? That'd be hard for me to believe, but I don't know. Right. And so I always try to be careful with making, those
Bold
just like
statements.
declarative statements that I, just yeah, that's what it is. No, it's not. That's what you heard from this source. on one little piece of this information, right? So it's just, we all have to realize that as much as it may affect emotions and get you stirred up, and we know very little, and we know very little about our own people and what they're saying, doing, paying, running. So um that's frustrating when you're trying to get to the truth. When you're an independent person, it's very frustrating because a lot of the information that you need to try to tie this web together is just going to be withheld from you.
Definitely.
Or
Definitely.
propagandized and twisted.
Mm-hmm. Is that just what it is today, man? Just
That's
whoever
what it is.
controls the information, disinformation is just going to be the victor. I
I
mean,
don't know if they'll be the
more.
victor, but I think they have a huge leg up.
It's scary. It's scary that the media has so much control over things like this, man. I don't
Oh,
know.
is that the media, or is that a militarized
True.
arm of
Weaponized.
government?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Look at the Twitter files. You
I
want to talk
know.
about shocking?
I know. I know. I know. I know.
I mean, not to. I don't want to tangent out, but it's
No,
kind
no,
of
no.
like
You're
in the
right. You're
same
right.
regard. It's like people just need to do their own independent research and stop looking at CNN and Fox and MSNBC and their 30-second sound bites. I mean, you put them all on the same channel, they all say the same shit. Put them all on the
Yep.
same on a different TV.
Kind of creepy, actually.
It's literally a skit.
Yeah.
It's written out for them.
Hmm.
And who by? Who knows?
Yeah.
CIA?
Exactly.
No clue.
Hmm.
Maybe, or
I
maybe
wouldn't
just
wouldn't put it
their
past
people,
them.
right? Maybe
Yeah.
it's just their people, though. Maybe it's just their people doing it and putting their opinion out, their opinion news.
Well,
Um,
I
but
hear that a
again,
lot.
that's why I like the YouTube and the independent journalist side, because it's like I relate way more with those people.
Same.
They seem sane, like they're not
Yeah, I
reading a
know. I
movie
know.
script.
I know. They seem sane. Yeah, you're right. That's the world we live in today, man.
Just at the base of it, synthesizers of information will be the controllers of the next generation.
I hear that a lot. I follow a lot of breadcrumbs lately, trails of information, and in the middle, in the mediated part of a lot of this stuff, CIA is murking around, and it's hard for me to hear that and just and think that something an arm of of the United States has become so weaponized that it's the reaper in most situations. The shadow that lurks in the night, the the end all be all, if you will.
Mm.
No, just something to think about because I keep getting to the CIA and
Where
I'll
did all
research
that
the C
where did all that get its power? 9/11, the United States Patriot Act,
Patriot Act
that was voted for um,
by the people.
unanimously,
Oh, unanimously. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
and then re-signed by multiple presidents and multiple Congresses. However, it gives the government the ability to do a lot of things that it wasn't able to do before that.
Of course it does.
Um, and look, I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to stick with the belief that the CIA is there more to protect us than to hurt us. And that's what I'm going to choose to believe until somebody can come out and say that it's different. If it's different, then fuck you. You failed to do what you were supposed to do, and you failed so badly that you got caught, and now you deserve to lose all respect if that's
I
what
hear
it
you.
comes to. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with some other
No, I hear you.
federal organization. I mean, they're just, it's politics is always going to be that way because you got power, and it's not always, power is that number one thing. And politics and diplomacy is absolutely necessary, but it's like you almost have to understand that um, it's necessary to have two sides of this coin, because if you only have one side of the coin, it's not coin anymore. The whole fucking thing falls apart. So that always has to be that two sides. Now, as extreme as things have gotten, I don't know how much. I don't know how much any of that makes sense, or whatever, as far as the media goes. I mean, there's been some crazy things thrown out there, but there's always crazy things thrown out there throughout history. There's been crazy things just as we evolve even as a species, or as
Keeps
a
getting
country
on
and a
another level.
culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. But technology's just connected everything. right? And you can get it right now and you can know everything right now. And like you said, in the onset of this, like when it was three stations, it was very easy to control what people
Big time.
seen, what they
Hmm.
digested, how it looked, what it was geared towards, what bias it had. And now you got people that can digest anything, and a lot of it's not even real. A lot of the things that people get spun up about, truthfully.
Okay, so let's zoom back in here. Towards the end of the Putin interview, he got a little pointed and he started kind of hitting our administration like, why the fuck are we even over here? Why are you even involved in this shit? You guys are 33 trillion dollars in debt. Your country's at each other's necks. The border crisis. Yeah, he hit on all our just major things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, which I would assume he would do most definitely, and take a shot or
Throw
two.
that shade. Throw that shade.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is a calculated individual. This is someone that most definitely had a plan. He probably wanted to say something, and you're right. I think Tucker threw him off a little bit at first because he
Mm.
expected a certain type of energy, didn't get it. But he definitely radioed in and zoomed in towards the end, and he started just throwing scuds at us.
Sure. I mean, that's what you have to kind of do, right? You have to, like, from his position. Yeah, there's a lot of shade you can throw right now, and that's fine. But I would almost say, like, I had this conversation a couple of days ago. Just one of my buddies were talking about things, and it's like people were bringing up, oh, they're going to hit us, and they're going to think about we're weak right now, and this, that, and the other thing, and it's like, yeah, or maybe they just throw some light shade. Maybe they just throw some light shade, right? Because that's what I would do. I'd throw some shade, I'd make some comments, but the
Test the
second that you
waters.
attack too much, even if it's words, even if it's a threat, what the fuck happened on 9/12/2001?
Pulled
The
that leash.
entire country united for one cause, and it was done. Whoever we wanted to go for, all you had to do is show them a picture, and that whole country said, "Yep, we'll tie
That's
the
a
bows
fact.
around the trees, send the
That's a fact.
boys." Okay, and they know that, right? And so the worst thing you could do right now, when the United States is picking itself apart, is attack them. And
That's
so you
true.
might throw some shade, you might bring up some stuff. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, the things that he brought up are kind of like, yes, are they true, or maybe do they have some basis in truth? Yeah, yeah, they're things that he knows is going to get one side of this coin fired up, at least, right? And then he chooses to talk about how he wishes or he would rather the other coin, the other side of that coin, have the reins. And so a lot of that I look at as like he was very specific about what he wanted to talk about and
Yeah, he
cuts
was.
that he wanted to make. And then even with the sarcasm and the facial expressions on
Yeah,
some
I
of
know.
those,
I know.
yeah, yeah, of course I want, those kind of situations. It's like that was his game. That was him getting satisfaction on his play that he practiced, right? Um, yeah, and I kind of deviated away from kind of the topic there, I think, but the point is, I don't think that he wants to throw big aggressive attacks either verbally or in the diplomatic world,
I
United
agree.
States right now. And if I was any other nation, like, hate to, spoiler alert, they already know, but you don't attack America when it's attacking itself. That's a stupid. Well, you don't ever do it, but you definitely don't want
I
to
know.
unite the two factions.
I was kind of surprised. I was kind of hoping that he would bring up, to me, his soft white underbelly, if you will, his weak spot. To me, Putin's. Why are we not bringing up that little fucking coup that happened, my brother? Why are we not bringing up how he almost got his chain stole
Oh,
by what's his
Prigozhin.
name? Yeah, man.
I think he knew that was coming like way early. He knew the
Yeah,
oligarchs were getting together. Look, he started sitting like 30 feet at the end of the table and not
I
letting
know.
people near him. And like
I
me
know.
too. Like
Mm,
if that's the hand you're gonna play, dude, you better. Yeah, because it's the Russian and Ukrainian people that lose in all of this. They didn't want this. They didn't
yeah,
ask for this. They weren't trying to get this, and then they're forced on it, right? And then he's got like these outrageous laws. If they even call it a war, they can be tried as a war as a what would they say? They can be tried as a not a traitor, but like a
Oh, I think I know what you're talking
like
about.
against the country
Yeah,
sympathists or whatever, protest, whatever. They can lock them up, and it's not for a little bit
sympathizer
of
or
time. It's
something.
like
Yeah,
for a lot of time. And so I find that just like that is when you know that that is when a regular and prudent person, in my opinion, should know that it's not a just war, is when the country's citizens that are waging the war go against it and get locked up and silenced by the
yeah,
government. It's like,
definitely.
well,
What's really going on here? Yeah.
it's interesting, you know. So
Hmm. To me, that dude, when I saw that play out real time, I thought that was probably like the closest anyone's came to Putin, to at least
he was pretty
checking him.
close. He
Yeah,
was pretty
I'm talking
like,
driving up armored vehicles into
oh yeah,
Moscow. Come
oh yeah.
on, dude.
Oh, you talking about the coup and what happened to him
Yeah, I know.
shortly after?
Disappear. Yeah, no, the plane malfunctioned, or what did they call it?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
the bomb in the wine box blew up. I think is
Yeah,
what I think is how that worked out.
yeah,
Prigozhin
exactly.
had a certain kind of wine that he really liked. You know, you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. Yeah. And so I think that he got a couple of those crates of wine as a gift or something, and maybe there was some TNT in it, or I don't know.
Vicious. God,
You know,
that
that's
feels.
a report. It could be
No,
all
I hear you. I
bullshit.
hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. But
He
God,
could be in the Kremlin right now having chai with old Vladimir. I
I
hate to
wouldn't
make
doubt it.
jokes of it, but like,
No,
how
come
could
on,
you
dude. You gotta
ever
laugh
know
once in a
what's
while. You gotta
real?
laugh once in a while, bro. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
So just two other things. He brought up Elon Musk, which kind of surprised me.
Why?
You know,
Why would that surprise you?
that's true. I don't know. I
What
just
What did he say that surprised you?
that we needed to. It seemed like we need. He made it seem like we needed to control Elon. Like we
Yeah,
needed.
Elon gave Starlink internet to the entire force that he's trying to fight right now, and now they have
Mm,
communications without
that's true. That's true.
any help. Like
So he.
that's,
I didn't think of it
I
like that.
believe I
You're
heard a
right.
report at one point um that the Kremlin was trying to decide if Elon is culpable for any of this, making him a
Enemy of the
target of the
state.
state.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And like maybe if we were at war with a country, any country, and we shut their lights off because we could only kill them at dark,
Yep.
and then maybe a citizen of Russia comes up with this thing that just gives them light always. Do you think we'd
Same
be
thing.
pissed?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd probably be like, hey, you need to control that guy and tell him to turn
Yeah.
the lights off. And so, like, I get why he would bring that up
Touche.
is because they shut power down. Doesn't matter. Starlink's still going to run. And as long as they got batteries, all of their
Good to
stuff's
go.
going to work, you know? So,
I totally forgot about that. Actually, I didn't even realize that.
yeah. And I don't even know how much of that's still going on. I also, again, it's where you consume your information, but I don't know if Ukraine is going to continue to get that Starlink for free forever. And maybe they're paying for it now, but maybe they're not. So I know there was some reports about that, but no, that makes sense to me that he would throw shade that way.
So he also Tucker was like, "Hey, just out of nowhere, I think this was Tucker's little curveball. He's like, who blew up Nord Stream?" And instantly he got a little. He's like, "You for sure." He was like, "I was busy that day."
Well, it's hard for me to say anything about that pipeline blowing up because our president, like, I don't know, within a week, maybe it was like 48 hours before all that happened, said that he could make that pipeline go
I know.
away.
I know.
And so it's like, it was probably us.
I know. I know. I thought that too.
It was probably us. And so
Now,
maybe it was Putin, maybe, but
just because I'm not that well versed on the Nord Stream whole operation, who does that directly um, feed oil to? Is it?
man, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know exactly what the routes are. Probably like most of Europe, though, right?
Is that
Oh
owned
no,
by
no, no, no.
Ukraine?
Hang on, let's pull it up. Hang on, I'll
Yeah.
pull it up. Let's see exactly where it goes from that explosion.
thought it was Ukraine.
Mm, 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 mm.
Owned by Russia, maybe.
Yeah, it's going to take a minute to figure out exactly where that goes to. Sweden dropped the investigation. It just says it carries Russian gas. I think maybe
For some
Germany
reason, I
too.
think it was ran by Ukraine and it went to Russia or is owned by Russia. Maybe it was in Ukraine, but it was Russia oil. I don't know. I should have done more research on it before I even brought it up. Um,
Germany going to German Baltic
oh,
Sea.
really?
110 billion cubic meters
That makes sense.
natural gas a year. Yeah, we might just, you might, this isn't live, right? Or is this live?
I can just edit it out. Don't worry about it.
That's what I'm saying. I would just cut that. We'll come
Yeah,
back and maybe we'll once we read up on it, we
I
can
got you.
maybe revisit another video or
Yeah,
like do it,
that's fine.
do another one. Yeah, because it's interesting to know where it would go to. Um, Germany canceled its approval process days before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which put Europe's resilience on Russian natural gas on the political spotlight. I think it was piped into Germany. And then I think from Germany, it feeds most of that European sector right there. So it basically all of that.
So it's
The
making money
question is, why would we, if it was us, why would we do it?
because it had to be bankrolling Russia.
Yeah, it had to be paying them. And so he said, oh, watch this. I could
Yeah,
make that pipeline stop today. And people
exactly.
laughed. And he said, Navy SEALs, go blow that up. Like, that's my guess. But who fucking knows, dude?
Yeah.
It could have been
What
Russia.
kind of
It could have
fucking
been,
dude? What kind of fucking operations is that? Isn't that like deep down in the water? Like, is that a diving team? Is that a sub? Fuck,
I would imagine it's a SEAL team.
that's fucking
How deep is
wild.
it?
Just this, I thought it was like deep, deep.
Oh, that might be
So
like Navy diver deep then.
yeah,
But then who's
that's
that?
that's wild shit,
No,
dude.
because Navy don't SEALs go like embark and debark out of submarines? They can
Yeah,
go
you're
pretty
right.
deep, I
That's
think, but I
wild.
don't know how
That's
fucking deep.
wild.
Yeah, but that
That
doesn't mean they went down there, bro. That means you have a fucking 10-digit grid to a foot. You take a fucking couple sticks of dynamite enough to penetrate that hole. You go, and then probably not even a
I
man,
was
probably a
thinking you had to
robot,
set a
bro.
charge.
It's probably a robot.
Mm,
You see a little robot swimmer down there with fucking high definition everything. Boom, here's the thing. It
see you later.
fucking arm. It's I don't know, but I'm guessing
Mm,
if it's so deep that we couldn't send a diver to do it, I'm sure we have robots for it.
yeah, facts.
And just like I'm learning a lot. Well, this is going to get cut out, right? So I'm learning a
Yeah.
lot from my new boss over at this company I'm working contracting for. He
Mm,
was a submariner for the beginning of his career, but then became a nuclear EOD diver or
really?
special forces guy. Um, and like so I just kind of pick his brain because I
Of
think
course.
I nerd out on
Of
like
course.
submarine shit because that's something I A would never do, and B it
Ever.
interests me though. It interests the shit out of me,
Because it's
but
hard.
I'm not that guy, right? And so I like to hear the stories about it because I think it's cool, but never would I even want to
Ever.
experience it. I just want to
Me
hear it.
either.
But he talks a lot about how many fucking like proximity mines and all kinds of stuff are all over the fucking ocean to
Really?
keep. Yeah, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. He's like, oh, they're everywhere.
What as like self defense?
Like
Like for mm,
mines, yeah, like coming into main ports
gotcha,
and
gotcha,
all
gotcha, gotcha,
kinds
gotcha.
of stuff. And so,
Yeah,
like, you always hear that the SEALs go out and do the beach recon. Well, no,
yeah,
them
yeah.
motherfuckers literally are finding where explosives are. And I was like, dude, I had no clue. Like, you see the movies and shit. I just watched that. What's it called? Hunter Killer with Gerard
Oh,
Butler.
yep, yep.
Have you seen it?
Yeah,
That's wild, dude.
yeah.
And to think that some of that's like not some of it, but like a lot of that is fucking real. We really
I
have
know.
those capabilities. Fucking wild to me. Anyway, sorry, I'm done.
What do you think? What do you think, dude? What do you think Space Force is legit? Like, do you think that's like a
It's real.
propaganda? Yeah, I know it's real, but
No, it's real.
are we talking operations?
Well, operationally, Space Force existed prior to us knowing Space Force existed. It was
Mm,
just a arm of the United States Air Force. That's where the first Space Force people came from. They just cut out what was that arm and made it Space Force. But, bro, is it necessary that we have guns in space? Well, I mean, they've made movies about it forever. And then the question that begs the question, what do the presidents know that we don't? And why would we need a force capable of being militaristic in space?
yeah, definitely.
And so then that begs the question: is it that we have this space primacy, like dominance race going, so that we could be the first ones to be able to defend in space, or is it more like there's things outside of our earthly habitat that we know about that we need to somehow figure out and have an entity to fight? And then that begs a lot of questions,
Yeah, it
right?
does.
And so with all the little flickers that NORAD's catching now, and they
Yeah.
had to desensitize their machine.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think it's what everybody's known. I mean, everybody's been talking about this for years, man. And for me to I feel like it's almost arrogant to confine life to Earth, as big
Of
as this
course, of
motherfucking
course,
universe is,
of
right?
course. I
So,
agree with you completely.
and that doesn't mean anything that I'm not talking about. That's not atheistic to me. Like
No, of
I think God can be the controller of all of that, and
course.
some that's in our purview. Maybe some of it wasn't, so we don't even have to go there. But here's a question: why would we go to the moon in the space race to get to the moon and then not go back?
Never go back
Why?
because we
Right.
can't.
So that's a weird question. So
To me, we
and
never
then
did it, man. I
well,
don't.
or we did it and something told us don't you ever come here again, or
Could have
something
been.
gave us that feeling, or something was there that we didn't expect to be there. Could have been any of those things, but it seems silly that we went there, we planted a flag, and we said never going back.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And
That
I know
doesn't
it,
make sense.
I know we've like went and collected moon rocks and stuff like that, but I don't know if we've like really established what I would think in 50 years you could establish there. Or maybe it's too dangerous, right? Or maybe it just didn't. So like that's just a lot of questions. um
NASA alone, dude, is kind of like a spooky entity because I mean, who 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 originated it, man? It was Warner Van Braun. I mean, we're talking top of the top Nazi scientist. And I'm not knocking him. I mean, I'm sure the guy was a genius, but I
the big
mean,
bomb came from those same fuckers. Manhattan Project, that was a bunch of their people, I believe.
what's the Manhattan Project?
Wasn't that where they developed the nuclear bomb?
I thought so. Thought
Yeah.
so. I just don't know much about it.
Yeah, you better cut all this
Oh, I will.
us
I
not
will.
knowing
I
out of
will. Don't worry about it.
here. We're
So,
making
so the
ourselves
last thing
look
I wanted to
stupid.
get on the Putin interview though was he boldly said World War Three. Just even said the words like talked World War Three. It was kind of on the same premise of him just kind of shitting on us with the 33 trillion in debt. Like saying that if
Mm-hmm.
we kept on the same trajectory with Ukraine, that could be a possibility. Um,
Yeah.
which was surprising to me. I mean, maybe that's just a scare tactic on his end, but I
Well,
mean,
I
I
just
would
think
just,
it's a dose of realism.
yeah, could be.
I think he's a realist, and he's saying, dude, I don't know. I'm nobody, right? But the way I see it, for the last 18 months, especially coming into that Olympic time frame, you had a bunch of Axis entities having conversations. You had a bunch of China and a bunch of Russia and a bunch. They even pushed into South America and picked up not interviews, but some sit downs and some things there. So it's like you watch all these, what you would imagine being the adversaries if there was another war based on the last two.
Yep.
You would say, yeah, those are probably the adversaries lining up. And then you watch NATO, do what they do. And I believe something like the first time since World War II that the war table at NATO was, sat at, and,
Mm,
people come in. So then you see the ally side kind of do it. You see the Axis side kind of line up. You know that, that China has issues and wants to move on Taiwan. At least that's the way they bolster themselves right now. Okay. And the US doesn't want that. And they just had their elections, and be it who won that election was kind of like I think what China Xi Jinping was waiting on, to kind of see if it panned out for him or for us, because that's kind of how the election was going to run, either a Western sympathizer or
yeah,
not,
yeah, yeah.
or a
Yep.
Beijing sympathizer, right? And so you have that going on, which is kilter, right? If they
Hmm.
invade, that's on them. But then if we do something to help, you're talking about world war implications. And then you got the Russia, Ukraine. Those have implications if he's saying they do, because he's the one that's kind of leading that.
Well, let's say
Um,
that does happen. Let's say they do invade Taiwan, ballpark it. Does that mean Russia tag teams it,
no, I mean, I don't
being
know.
allies?
I don't know what kind of allies they are. I don't know if they are
Mm,
allies in that sense, or in that respect. But I know that if things fell off dramatically, they're the ones that have been friendly and talking to each other
yeah,
recently,
definitely.
right? So I would
Yeah.
assume they have some sort of relationship, probably, that we don't have.
Hmm.
um and then, a lot of people talk about World War III. What does World War III look like? And I think everybody's like scared to death that it's going to look like nuclear warheads falling on foreheads. And I just don't see it. Like, people can say that we don't operate on mutually assured destruction policy still, but I believe we do. That's why it's a big deal whenever Russia or China or the United States gets an advanced delivery guide system for these things that's faster than everybody else, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
where it becomes a big issue. um
So really, what you're saying
I'm
is the
inclined to
person
say
that
that
get,
it's not going to be that. I'm inclined to say that it's going to be hacking
yeah, I agree. I agree.
and technical attacks on pipelines and gas and food and
Water,
power
yep,
and
food,
water.
yeah, yep,
And I mean, you look at what COVID did to the world when people didn't have what they thought they needed. People went nuts. You do
yeah,
that to a country and let them bask in it for a couple months and weaken them up. I mean, so for me, it's like everybody, I think, is waiting on this, apocalyptic nuclear war, and everybody knows that ends the wrong way for everybody, in my opinion. So I think that you're going to have um this sneaky, highly technological, almost
I
Stuxnet
agree.
type of
I agree.
attacks.
Hmm.
Um, and probably it will be bad. Like,
Mm,
if it goes that way large scale, that's not good either. Like, that
no.
will bring people to a new age, whoever it affects, and it would probably affect a lot of people. But I just I would be hesitant to say anything, because you don't want to fear monger or alarm people. But
Of
those type
course.
of attacks have been happening for 18 months to 2 years on our critical infrastructure. You
Yeah.
hear about it a little bit and it goes the fuck out of the news. Then you hear about it a
Yep.
little bit and then it goes out of the news. But when some other countries are probing your critical infrastructure, um, there's probably a reason.
What else could that mean?
And the other part of that is, we're probably doing it to theirs,
I know.
right?
I know.
And
I
so,
think about
like,
that all the
we
time.
always forget that anything that somebody's doing to our country, as another country, a Putin, a China, a North Korea, do you think we're not spying on them? Do you
Yeah,
think we're
we're
not probing
returning
their
the favor.
critical infrastructure? So, like, this is just it's almost a check and balance across the globe, to make sure that we know what they know and they know what we know, and we know what they have and we know what they say. And sometimes we fuck it up. We'll go back to the before. Sometimes we get that wrong. Sometimes we miss things. An interesting thing, just to, this is a rabbit hole bit off topic, but the same conversation I had a couple months ago, um, regarding Israel. It's very weird to me that the Mossad and the United States intelligence community, which is the big brother and sole ally, you know, ride or die to Israel, it's very strange that with our capacity, we missed an entire planning cycle from Iran to Hamas, Okay, right. It's to me, it's like, nah, we didn't miss that. So then what's scarier? That we knew it was going to happen? Yeah, that would be scarier.
Yeah, it would.
And then you let it happen? And what if you're Benjamin Netanyahu and the Mossad says, hey, this is going to happen. And American intelligence confirms like, hey, this is credible. Do you go, let it happen? Let it happen because I'm going to finish him. Hey, that's the scary shit that none of us know. None of us will ever know. But that's the shit that people that want to think critically need to think about, that kind of question. Like, okay, is it right or wrong? Yeah, it's fucking horrible. It's war. People are dying on both sides. It's not good. Why? Who knew? How? And like, so it's equally scary to me. If we missed all of that planning and all of that communication and all of that weapons transfer and money
Which I doubt.
That's okay, right? But if we did, then that's not good either.
No, it's not. It's not.
So
that's scary. I mean,
yeah, just different questions.
Something to think about. Yeah,
just different things to sit and think about when you should be sleeping.
Facts. I hear you. I'm there too. Yeah. Well,
look, man, that's all I got for you. I want to make sure I end this with saying that I'm nobody. I do my own research. I got a little bit of education, not a lot, and most of it's not in Hamas, Israel, Putin. Some of it's in Putin. But man, I just wish people just got to do their own work. You got to go and look, and it's all out there. You can find the real sauce, but you got to get deeper than social media and legacy news for sure.
I agree completely. Honestly, it's my favorite thing to do, man. It's tickling my brain just to look at the stuff and just contemplate what could be, man. I enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
That's all I got for you, brother. I appreciate you taking the time and talking to me. And everyone, make sure you go check out what Ryan's got going on. Choices Not Chances podcast. He's got a new guest on probably every other week, and there's some great content over there. So make sure to check him out. He's got an Instagram as well. What else are you on? You on Spotify as well?
Yeah, I'm on everything. Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all of it.
There you go.
Come get the information.
Kill. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, brother. Shit.